Today I'm going to briefly be talking about the Invincible comic, and some things don't make a whole lot of sense. So what I'm specifically talking about is money and finance. In particular, how characters like, say, Adam Eve have incredible powers, right? And one of their main worries throughout the comics is money. And I'm thinking, hey, Adam Eve, what's wrong with you? Now, part of the thing is that she's like a teenager or whatever, and so she's sort of naive and doesn't have all her priorities together, but also, hey, you could turn all the water in the world into whatever. You turn it into concrete. You could strong arm the government into giving you whatever you wanted. That being said, they could also murder you. I'm not saying that she should do that, but she has insane capabilities. Okay, you could also just take, say, this bookcase back here. Okay, you could turn it into solid gold, and you could sell it. And are you saying that it would be difficult to sell a solid gold bookcase? I mean, I just don't buy it. Here's another thing. Cecil Stedman, right? He's always in charge of these sorts of things. He's supposed to be a smart guy. Smart, okay? Not a complete idiot. But he's always worrying with money. He mentions money all the time. Robert Kirkman writes him as always thinking about money and thinking about taxpayer dollars. Now, part of it is also like government mistrust being like a central theme in politics when this was written. I mean, of course, that has something to do with it. But see, here's the thing. If Cecil Stedman is so smart, why is he so worried about money? Like, you could kidnap Adam Eve. She's clearly, like, susceptible to mental stuff, right? Okay, hook her up to something, mess with her mind, and she's your license to print gold, okay? And then he could strong arm every nation if he wanted. He could take over the United States if he wanted. I just don't see how that's even remotely difficult, especially because I get that some characters are like kids, some characters are like mentally ill or whatever. Quite a few are. Okay, there's a lot of insane characters in comic books, but what doesn't make any sense is how the mentally sound humans, humans doesn't matter, but you have mentally sound characters. Why they don't manipulate other characters to get what they want? It would take like 10 seconds. That being said, this is sort of like a roundabout way talking about how in Tolkien you don't see the Eagles go and kidnap all the main characters and drop them off at Mount Doom. This guy's a free agent, so he does whatever he wants, and he does what he feels is right. Maybe you could say that his moral compass doesn't really account for that, although I feel like he would do a lot worse, a lot quicker, and for a lot less money. I don't know how much the Cecil Stedman character is supposed to make, but for example, the teleporting thing doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me either. I get it's $5,000 per teleport or whatever. Here's the thing. He has access to aliens indirectly. He doesn't use that technology. He has access to superheroes that he could take control over, but he doesn't. He likes those little zombie things that crazy dude makes, which is fine. It just doesn't seem like the comics are completely, like, they make good sense all the time. That's fine. That's what fiction's about, is to write whatever you feel. But that's why fiction's pretty interesting, and I don't know, like a good case of this is like the real short story by F. Scott Fitzgerald, Benjamin Button, is like irrevocably altered when it's actually dealt with in a movie form. It's like very different, and like both are pretty interesting. One, the dude, right, they age backwards, so he's like a super old dude that's actually like pretty young mentally, and then he becomes like a baby and dies. Well, in one version, like the short story, he's like a hero from the Spanish War, Spanish-American War, and he gets called back into service into World War One, but he's too young and nobody believes him, and he ends up being a kid. It's like there's a lot going on there. It's really interesting. It's actually quite short, so you don't get that much out of it. Whereas the movie goes a completely different route. He like ends up going through boating stuff. He does a whole bunch of boating stuff, and he gets sort of drafted into World War II by his captain, and the boat blows up. His captain dies. His crew dies, but he survives. And there's a big component of romance in there, and I don't know. They're both interesting, but they're both like very different because everyone's take on what should have happened in the fiction based on the characters and everything that's going on is like very different. And I totally understand that. That's how humans work. We all have our little idiosyncrasies that we want to project onto the fictional world. But I don't know. It just seems like if I was Adam Eve, I I'd be doing a whole bunch of stuff, like making modifications on my body so I'm like a giant 30-foot robot. I'd be the Iron Giant for sure. And then also, I would buy my own private company. Um, Sorry, not company, country. And I would insulate myself with all the gold in the world, and I would do whatever I wanted. I would also build spaceships and get in like contact with all these crazy aliens. That would be awesome. And also, you could make huge facsimiles of yourself, like giant automatons that guard your country if you had one. It just seems like you've got a whole lot in the making, and it just doesn't really get dealt with. That being said, if you found this interesting, you know it'd be cool is if you dropped a comment and talked about a character you thought about that's similar in this, something that should have been changed, how you would change it, what's interesting to you about it. That'd be awesome. And really appreciate you watching and thinking, and keep being awesome. Thanks.